Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Arrow, Season 5, Episode 8. It's called Invasion. Of course, it is the third night of the Invasion crossover. Technically the second part in terms of the actual crossover plot. But it's also Arrow's 100th episode, so it's kind of pulling double duty in that sense, that it's the middle of a crossover and it's celebrating their 100th.
And it's the first in about 40 episodes where I'm not drunk.
It's also that, yes, that's also true. So full spoilers for the episode as always in this one. So at the end of the last part on the Flash, Oliver, Sarah, John, and Ray and Thea. Yeah, the five Arrow. Well, three of them are currently Arrow characters. Two of them originated on Arrow, but they're on Legends now. They all get beamed up into the ship. That was how we ended. And essentially what we get here is we get kind of it was basically for the Archer Who Has Everything plot.
Yeah.
Where they're in this sort of fake, they're all hooked up to essentially Matrix machines, and it's this fake world where their parents are still, Robert and
Moira.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah, I know.
Laurel's there, and Laurel and Ollie are getting married, and everyone seems kind of happy, and things are all hunky dory. And it's basically the story of them slowly realizing, they're getting these small glitches, and they're having memories of things, and they're realizing it's fake, and that's kind of typically what this story is. And they realize they have to get out. That's basically what's going on in there. I will say this. There was actually a scene in this where it was kind of effective, and obviously there's scenes that are with other characters from other shows, which we'll get to. But when everyone realises that they're in a fake world, and Oliver goes to get Thea to leave, I actually thought their scene worked on an emotional level.
I agree. Do you know what is perhaps my one disappointment with it, which is going to sound weird.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end, Thea's like, no, she's staying, and then she kind of just shows up anyway.
Yeah.
I'd almost wanted her to stay in and then have to rescue her from the outside. But I just thought it would have been a little bit more interesting than her just switching with no explanation, really. Just, oh, okay, I decided you're right.
Yeah, they play it off as she realizes this is my family now. Right? It is a bit weird because it happens in the next scene. There's actually another plot in this episode where I feel like they set something up and then resolved it immediately.
Yeah,
and we'll get to that in a bit. But so there's that. But I actually thought the scene with him trying to convince her and her being but no, our life sucks. Everyone keeps dying, and there's this and there's that, and this is much better. Remember this? It was nice, and obviously it's quite traditional for a show's 100th episode to make a lot of callbacks to its early days. And this did it in spades, they try and throw in multiple characters. We see Merlin, of course. No Tommy, because they couldn't get that actor. And I'm convinced they couldn't get that actor, because when we do see a glimpse of him later, we get this emotional... They find, in the digital world, there's a portal that they physically walk through, then they all wake up. It's the way out of the Matrix, if you will. So there's this moment where Ollie turns around, and he sees, digital ghosts of, all these prominent people who have, died. And he sees his parents, he sees... was Merlin one of them? I can't remember.
Tommy was, yeah.
No, I'm getting to Tommy.
Oh, right, no. There was his parents, Tommy...
Laurel, obviously.
Laurel. And the one that really confused me, I'm pretty sure was sort of Felicity there.
Yeah, Felicity was there. Yeah, that was the one weird one, because she wasn't dead.
I was like, are they trying to tell us she's about to die? I was like, what?
But no, the reason why I'm bringing this up... Oh, that one was Roy. The reason why I'm bringing this up, though, is because clearly Tommy and Roy, they couldn't get those actors, because everyone else, they'd clearly shot them standing, maybe in just front of a green screen, but they'd shot them standing there doing this pose. Those two looked really weird, because they'd clearly had their heads taken from other shots and CG'd on to their bodies, and it looked really awkward.
It did, and I almost wish they hadn't addressed Tommy, because I was thinking for a while, oh, it's weird that he's not here. I was like, okay, they just couldn't get him, whatever. But then they had the line.
There was a joke about him, though. See the line where he explains where he is?
Yeah.
That's actually a joke, because he's on a Chicago MD. What's it called? Yeah.
One of those, yeah.
The hospital one, because he mentions he's a doctor now, and that was the joke. That's the show he's on now.
I got it, but I almost wish they just hadn't had it there and just left it like alone.
Yeah, pointing it out made us notice. Wait, that's weird. Why is he not here if everything else is
Yeah.
fine? You know. They obviously also couldn't get the actor who plays Deathstroke because we just see him in the mask. We never see his face or hear him
Yeah,
talk.
which is just kind of fine, I guess.
It is fine, but they did this again, or they did this before, for an hallucination last season when he
Yeah.
was on like poison or whatever it was when he was trying to like find magic to stop Damien Dark, you know. So remember that? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
But
vaguely.
so it's happened a couple of times now, and it feels kind of cheap. I'm like, if you're going to have Deathstroke, get the actor and actually let us hear him and see him and so on.
Yeah, because that's the thing. The best part of the Deathstroke stuff was the relationship between the two men, not
The mask.
Deathstroke being in the mask. Yeah. So it kind of just feels a bit cheap.
Shadow.
Okay, yeah, not that part.
There wasn't enough shadow in this episode. That's my complaint. And they mentioned Walter, but we don't see Walter either.
Yeah. It's funny because we were talking about Walter just the other day and how he just vanished.
Yeah, we were talking about how he just sort of disappeared from the show in season 2, and we couldn't remember his name. We had to look up his name. I thought he was called Philip for some reason. I don't know why.
You were determined it was Philip.
I was. I don't know why, but Philip was what I was thinking in my head. But yeah, I mean, I think there was some things to complain about. I thought some of the dialogue was really on the nose at times. When Sarah says, "You're lucky I'm not a trained assassin," like why would why would you say that?
I know.
Just things like that, bits of dialogue like that. I had way more problems with the
real world stuff.
Yeah, the newbie characters, like, and they're faffing around in the Arrow base.
Yeah, because it started with them, and immediately I was like, "Oh, I wish I was drunk for this."
Yeah, because I was almost worried that it was going to like avoid all of the characters from the other shows for the most part.
Yeah, me too.
It would be in the digital world, then it would be these characters, and then there'd be nothing else.
Especially when you had Cisco there, I thought, "Oh, they'll just have Cisco."
Yeah. But the funny thing is another complaint I'd have about this episode is that the Supergirl Flash stuff, like their whole plot, where they have to go after this ridiculous-looking cyborg woman who looks atrocious.
Yep.
That, like, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the moments with Supergirl and Flash, like them double teaming and doing that whole hitting her back and forth.
Yeah, but they could have just gone in there and done that in 3 seconds flat.
They could have done that. But the problem I have with this entire plot, though, is it feels just tacked on so they could have a reason to have Supergirl and Flash be around for a couple of scenes. Because, really, like, they could have just had them go and pick this up themselves and have it not be as difficult. Or they just wouldn't have needed it at all. Like, they could have easily went around this.
The sad part is, I almost wish they had left them out. Like, as much as I love the other shows way, way, way more than Arrow, I feel it was almost a detriment to the show by having them in just for the sake of it.
Yeah, well, even though, like, some of my favourite moments were from those characters, because I like them way more. And I think watching them interact with the other characters does elevate them a lot.
Yeah.
Seeing the other ones react to them using their powers and whatever, although we're getting to Renee's stupid little minor subplot in a minute, like, it is more fun, but I get what you're saying, and I that's kind of what my point was. It feels kind of oddly tacked on when it clearly feels like, no, the episode would have been fine without this.
Yeah, like, just have them around in the cave, maybe just because they're here, that they've been taken, everyone's regrouping, and
actually,
have
when you
them
think,
around.
you don't even need their plot. Like, you don't even need to see them. You could have had it all be in the digital world, right? Still had the ending, like have them be saved at the end, like they are saved, and just have one line of dialogue saying how they knew where to come and get them. Like, they could have literally explained it in 1 or 2 lines at the end.
Yeah.
Rather than having this plot of them trying to find this chip so that they can try and decode.
It's just because it's an episode of Arrow, so we have to have the Arrow cast. Although, weirdly, without Evelyn.
Well, she's off double-crossing them with
Well,
Prometheus.
yeah, but it's just, you'd think if she's going to be an undercover agent, she'd be there for the big moments.
Now that you mention it, I don't even think I remember seeing her in the the photos of the big fight from the next episode.
No, I don't.
I don't recall it. Maybe she showed up. I don't know.
If she wasn't in this episode, she won't be in it.
I didn't study it too carefully, if I'm honest. So, I could be wrong. But so yeah, I thought that whole plot could have been in. It could have been cut, but you know what? Fine. I'm happy to see Supergirl. I'm happy to see Flash, even though they feel kind of just tacked on. The other problem with this though is Renee's subplot, where as soon as Cisco mentions he can vibe, Rene gets all basically racist about metahumans and thinks they're, can't be trusted, no one should have superpowers, kind of thing.
Should probably be siding with the Dominators, shouldn't he?
Yeah, and he blatantly was like kind of, discriminatory against Supergirl and Flash. Like he made some comments, and I also was like, oh, don't hurt Kara's feelings, like, and I appreciated their reaction to it. Like they just kind of sat back, but then the whole plot goes nowhere because literally in the next scene they save his ass because of course he gets his ass whipped. Of course,
Doesn't he always though at this point?
He's just a random guy in a hockey mask. He can't do shit. Like
Exactly.
We've established this repeatedly. Ragman at least has some merit. Ragman can do some stuff.
Yeah.
He's basically bulletproof as well. Ragman's been proven to be very useful.
Yeah, Ragman's a solid addition here.
He is. And Curtis at least has the tech, and maybe the fighting will get up to speed at some point.
Maybe.
I did like I did like how Siska was like, "Oh, your tech guy makes movie references."
Yeah,
very original. Yes. So that was fun, but yeah, like so they save him, and he immediately gives like, I'm still not happy about superpowers, but at least there's people like you out there. Like, and it's like, oh, that was a 180 in about 30 seconds.
I know.
Thanks for that.
Which is amusing because I liked his reaction when Supergirl came down. He was just like, "Nope, I'm done with this."
Oh yeah, that was funny. Like, one of the best things about these crossovers actually is watching the characters from Arrow who don't have superpowers like react to seeing like super speed or flying for the first times, and like,
it's usually Dig that gets the funny stuff.
Usually Diggle. I actually really like some of Thea's stuff at the end of this one in the spaceship.
With spaceships, yeah.
Her reaction to being being in two spaceships, was pretty funny. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, I don't know. That's a lot of the actual real world stuff felt very, obviously not the ending, but the team trying to find them felt tacked on for the most part.
Yeah, but do you know why it was all worth it?
Why was it all worth it?
Because we got Curtis making that fantastic pun.
Go on.
When they went to get the stuff off the Cyberwoman, and he goes, I think she's a bit attached to it. That'd be good.
So the funny thing was, is see when he said it,
and he was saying it like he knew it was a pun, like he was so aware of it.
So obviously, once in the digital world again, once they all decide to leave, the idea that the digital world will try and stop them, and it does this by making all their villains like pop. So Deathstroke's there, Damien Dark's there.
We got Malcolm.
Malcolm is there.
Vigilante.
Was that Vigilante?
I'm sure that was Vigilante.
I thought it was just two random goons because they couldn't get Diggle's brother, who would have made sense for him to fight.
I thought one of them was Vigilante.
Maybe one of them was. I don't know. One of them looked like a Deathstroke knockoff.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure one of them was Vigilante.
Yeah. I just thought it was funny though that three of them get like proper arch nemesis, and then like the other two have got like goons to fight.
Yeah, that is a good point.
Which reminds me, actually, did you enjoy the fact that the opening logo like went through all 5 of the versions?
I'm torn because I really like what they did on Flash last night, where they went through them all. Like, and I was looking forward to seeing that with just the Arrow one coming on top.
Yeah, although admittedly that was the first thing that made me worry. Is when I seen that I was like, oh, this isn't a proper crossover again.
That's what happened to me. I was like, that's not good.
Yeah.
And then we cut to the Arrow Cave with just the new characters. I was like,
Don't get me wrong, it's not as cut off as Supergirl was, because Supergirl was just a regular episode of Supergirl with a tease at the end. Whereas this does tie in properly at the end. And obviously the reason why all the Arrow characters are up in this spaceship are because of the crossover plot, but it does feel it feels a lot more centric on Arrow than Flash did on Flash, Flash felt more even, and I feel like Legends will probably feel more even as well, because it's the end of the crossover and they're all going to be there to have the big fight. And
that said, I don't think it suffered too much for that, because it was doing valid stuff.
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah, we got issues, but, compared to every other episode of Arrow.
Oh yeah, like, as much as we've been nitpicking at this is easily the best episode of Arrow in at least 2 years.
Oh, easily. Like, there is no question about that.
This is better than every episode in Season 4, every episode in Season 3, probably.
Yeah, there's maybe 1 or 2 that are on par with it from Season 3.
Yeah, And the fact is, I've seen a lot of people online talking about this, and I've seen the word phenomenal be used, and I think, well, that's a bit much. And it made me think, like, we're at a point now where we've been hating this show for over 2 years now.
There's almost nothing the show can do now to make us care again to the extent that we used to.
Yeah, I don't think it's so much that it can. It's just that it has to do a lot more to build it up. Whereas I think a lot of people who loved this episode are loving it because they still care about these characters. So when all these emotional beats where they're talking to, his dead mom, Thea wants to stay. Which, don't get me wrong, I thought that Thea scene did actually work really well. What she was saying was making a lot of sense to me. I got why she wanted to stay, and it
Yeah.
was kind of impactful. But I think for a lot of people, like seeing Laurel was a big deal to them. Whereas to me, it was like, sure, like fine. Like
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
feel
really
the
care.
same. It's like if this had been like after 2 seasons where it had been like better,
Yeah,
this probably I probably would have gone, yeah, this was pretty phenomenal because it would have earned all these beats in my mind.
yeah, but
But
a
now
lot of
it's
them
not.
didn't.
It's not earned. It's more. This is the step to regaining my trust.
Yeah, which I know they're going to throw away next week. I have no doubts. One scene that I really didn't like is when Ollie, like, cause like Ollie and his dad like get mugged, and like a Green Arrow shows up, and when he like, kind of remembers where the base is, he goes, and it's like Diggle who's Arrow, like Diggle's screaming at him the entire time with his menacing voice. I thought that was a bit goofy. I wasn't
I like how Diggle has an Arrow voice as well, though.
sure, but it was stupid. It was a stupid Arrow voice.
It was, but I like that they bothered doing it, even after like he knew his name and everything.
But yeah, so end of the episode. So they go through the portal. They get to the building. Oh, I was going to mention. Yeah, they have this big 5-way fight out in the fountain with the fountain spraying everywhere and all that. And the fight was pretty good. It's probably one of the best fights Arrow's had in a while.
Yeah, yeah, hard to argue with that. It was pretty solid.
Yeah, it was fine. Like certainly, because I think a lot of times recently on Arrow we've been complaining that the fight choreographies went really downhill in this past season or so. And yeah, sure, it's been slightly better this season compared to what it was doing at the end of last season, but I still don't think it's anywhere close to what it was doing season 1 and 2.
Definitely.
Whereas this felt a bit more up to par. They went a bit more all out, because either it was because of the crossover, because it was the 100th, whatever, but they did. Anyway, so they go to the building, they go through the whole portal thing. All he sees is Force ghosts as he's leaving, 2 of which look really bad and fake and photoshopped, essentially.
And one of which made no sense as to why they were there.
Yeah, I guess it's meant to be a symbolic thing that he's left his relationship with, his romantic relationship with Felicity behind. Not that I believe that, but
But I don't get everyone else. It's like I could stay here and they're here in this world that I can be with them.
although earlier on I did say that they were all dead. That's not entirely true. Roy's not dead.
Well, no, but like the whole point is, they're all still around in in this world. He could be with them, whereas Felicity, he isn't with. In this world he has no relationship with Felicity because he doesn't know her really until like this night. Whereas he can go back and be with her in reality. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. All the other people are people that and yes, in this world he was already with and had good relationships with, and B, they're all people that he can't have back in the real, mostly because they're dead, or in Roy's case because he's off on the run because he's a fugitive, or he's meant all that bollocks. Whereas Felicity, it's kind of the opposite. Even though that she's in a relationship in the real world, it's still more than what he'd have with her here, where she's like a stranger to him, basically.
Yeah, I just don't get what the point of her being there was. It just doesn't make sense to me.
I think what they're probably thinking behind it is that it's like a greatest hits of Arrow, and each one represents like a season or whatever, or something like that. Rather than, even though logistically it makes no sense, or thematically it makes no sense.
I just don't like it, basically.
Yeah, I don't like it either.
I just wish that she hadn't been there.
Oh, I thought
I have no problem with any of the others.
I thought the whole scene was stupid, to be honest.
All right, if you get over that, like at least I can see why all the others are there. There's a point to it. I get the thing that they're trying to tell me. With her, it's just she's there for the sake of it because Felicity. It's not good enough.
Anyway, so they all wake up and they're on an alien spaceship, and I actually kind of started laughing during this scene, not because it was bad. I was actually the Dominators walking past look quite good. CG's pretty good. Ollie, it's a bit convenient. There's a random alien gun just on the wall for him to take. But he starts firing it and they run away. So it's like on Star Wars when on the Death Star and they're escaping.
And they're a bit quippy.
Yeah, a bit quippy. It gets a bit fun, and I'm thinking maybe they should go on alien spaceships in this show more often. It maybe brighten things up a bit.
Can I just say before we move on?
Yeah.
Why did they treat this as a twist shock reveal? We saw them get abducted, right? By the light, and then you've got the ending is Felicity and that hacking the alien tech. First of all, that was the part that really annoyed me at the start, where they were getting excited because they were like, "Oh, there's tech, we can hack it." It's like you've never even encountered this before. Shut up. But then she was like, "Oh, you'll never guess where they are." Like that doesn't make any sense. And then it cuts to Ray and looking out the window. He goes, "Oh, you should probably see this." And it's like, "Oh, they're on a spaceship." And it was treated as like a reveal. It's like, well, obviously. You watched aliens take them. Where else are they going to be?
See, I thought you were going to complain that it was a reveal that we're all in some sort of dream because they showed that at the start. I was like, no, they didn't.
No. Of course not. That's fine. Just the reveal that they're all on a ship in space. It's like, well, yeah.
Oh yeah, when you were on a ship, there was definitely never any doubt in that.
I don't know. Just it didn't seem like it deserved that moment that they gave it.
Well, no, it does. I'll explain why it does. Maybe not from Felicity's perspective, but from Ollie and those people, it is like there is a shock to them. Why wouldn't it be a shock to them to an extent?
Okay, to them because they've vanished and then woke up here.
Yeah, exactly. So to them, looking out the window and going, "Oh crap, we're in space." I think that's a fair moment.
All right, for them, sure, but to play it up with the people on the Earth doing this as well because they watched them get taken in a beam of light by aliens.
No, that's a fair point, but I still think the moment's valid because of their perspective.
Okay, their perspective is. I'll allow that one.
Yeah, because they've just woken up. They rolled out of bed essentially and looked out the window. Oh crap, stars. Yeah. So but anyway, so they run off and they get to a small like sort of ship that comes out of the big mothership. And I was really starting to laugh throughout this whole thing. Them running with the space gun and blasting down these alien hallways, and then getting into this drop ship, and then flying out into space, and then all the other ships come out and start blasting at them. And this whole time, I had this sort of weird grin on my face. I was enjoying it; like it was a lot of fun. But I was grinning because this entire episode, a lot of it was about harkening back to the early days of Arrow for nostalgia, and I couldn't help but laugh because I thought if you went back in time and went to someone who was watching season 1 of Arrow, like someone who was halfway through the season and said, "Here's a clip from the 100th episode," and you showed them running through a spaceship and then like flying through space, dodging beams
with no bow and arrow in sight.
With no, like you'd be like, "What did this show become?" Like it's so. It's so far and gone from anything Arrow's ever been. Even the cybernetic woman, like she looked really bad, but it's again like you imagine that in season 1 or 2 of Arrow, like it's. And I'm not complaining. Like I'm not. This isn't a complaint. It's just it's kind of surreal to think about it.
Yeah, it's like maybe I'd start thinking the cybernetic woman in season 2, where we got like the Miracura, we had the Solomon Grundy stuff.
Even that was baby steps still compared to this.
It was baby steps, but I'd think, if you got me there by season 5, I could kind of go, yeah, I can kind of see that. Running through the spaceship, though.
Yeah, spaceships are a different
that's a complete different level.
Yeah. So yeah, so they're in a spaceship, and obviously at this point I'm thinking, I bet the Legends, the Wave Rider is going to show up and save them. And sure enough, and it was a good moment. It made sense. It's the one spaceship they've got at their disposal.
Yeah.
And it let us see, Haywood. Like we got to see him, who wasn't in the last episode. Flash. So that was a nice moment, and it was nice them coming onto the ship, and like Sarah and Ray like know it because their ship, they know it. So like Sarah's like, "I'll take Diggle to go and see Gideon," and they're like. It was just fun because these characters know each other from like Arrow, like that's where they came from. But now they've got their own turf now, and they're like Ollie and that are there, and Thea's like, "Oh man, I'm on another spaceship. That's 2 spaceships. That's more than I ever thought."
And they're just like, this is technically a time ship.
Yeah, but it's like they're in the know, and it's their home, and it's like it's their turf, and even when they go into the main area, and like Thea's still sort of like just in the background, just looking around at things, like just.
And they're just getting on with it like it's day-to-day life.
Yeah, like just. Yeah. Little things like that make these kind of crossovers fun, and
I agree.
And basically, Gideon tells them, "Oh yeah, their ship's heading towards Earth. Bum bum bum. Come back for Legends tomorrow."
Yeah, and that they're building a weapon. It's nearly ready. That's what they translated.
Yeah, but I mean, I almost took that for granted before that.
Obviously, because they made a big deal of saying how they only took non-metas. I assume the point is that the Dominators want to wipe out all the metas.
Yeah, so that they can't fight them, can't defend themselves. Which, I like that as an excuse for only having the Arrow characters. That was actually quite a nice little excuse.
Yeah, I'm not even sure it's just so they can't defend themselves though, because obviously I think the Dominators said at one point like, "Oh, we're getting rid of the Scourge before they come to us." I think they're just afraid of the metas spreading. Like once humans have space travel, because
Oh
obviously we
yeah,
get
well,
space
yeah,
travel.
well, that was the whole plot of Invasion, was that
Yeah,
they were
yeah.
worried
So I
that.
think like they're actually doing that in this.
Yeah, that makes sense then. Yeah.
Yeah, because
'Cause-
obviously up till now they haven't been doing that,
well, it's not that they haven't been doing it; we just haven't
or
seen
they
what
haven't,
they're
they
doing.
haven't said anything like that, which is weird considering we're at the final part now. Is all.
Well, if honestly, if I'm going to make a complaint about this crossover, is that it does feel like the aliens look good, and I'm liking the sort of feel of them, but they've not really went into a whole lot of their like. It feels like the plot of them's almost been in the background to like last episode of Flash was mostly like the heroes training, and then
See,
fighting
that's the
each
thing.
other.
Like that made sense as a first part. Let's get everyone together.
But
Build up the
this
team.
is the problem with this episode of Arrow though. As much as it doesn't necessarily not work. It's just it comes at this really weird point where it feels like this should be Act 2 of the story, but instead we've had this tangent of like.
I think it doesn't help that this is part 2 of 3 instead of like part 2 of 4 or 5. If it was a bit more to go on, I think it would be better, because then you'd be like, okay, we can take that time to explore this. Whereas instead, it's like now everything to do with the actual like alien threat has got to be resolved in one episode instead of over 2.
Yeah, if everything feels really compressed, like heavily compressed to a point of it just feels a little too rushed. And I'm having fun, but it's just,
It means that Legends has got a tough job now to address everything and wrap it up satisfyingly.
Yeah. It's weird, too much. It's almost like they could have used that episode of Supergirl. And even though it would have been kind of weird, like starting it, because if it's still starting with Barry, like discovering the ship, like it's kind of weird to start there in Supergirl, but you just intercut it with Supergirl doing stuff.
Do you know what I feel like would have been better? If instead of starting in Supergirl there, carry on how it was, start in Flash, but then at the end of this, the Dominators travel to her Earth and they have to fight them on that turf, like Cisco, to get rid of them, he vibes portals and sends them accidentally to Supergirl's Earth, because that was like the last place he vibed to. So then they follow through and fight them on that turf in a part 4 in like what would have been another episode of Supergirl next week.
Cisco feels really guilty about it, and then Felicity walks over and goes, "Don't worry, Cisco, I nuked a city, it's fine. You get over it."
Exactly.
That would never happen, and I'll tell you why. Not the plot idea. I don't have anything wrong with the plot. I just mean it would never happen because they wanted this in one week. They were never going to split it over a weekend. So it always had to end with Legends on the Thursday.
No, I'm in agreement with that. It's a shame, because I felt like that would have structurally paced it a lot better.
Honestly, Joe, what I really wish they would do with these crossovers, and what I wish they'll do next year, is, don't get me wrong, it's fine when you have like the 2-part crossovers. I'm sure the musical one with Flash and Supergirl will work quite well, just being the two of them and kind of feeling half and half. But I really wish that instead of, and I get that this is awkward from a, where do you put them later? How do you like class it as whatever? But don't call them episodes of Supergirl, Flash, Legends, and Arrow. Like, just essentially have like a 4-part miniseries that functions as it is, but instead of
like give all the shows one less episode order.
Yeah, and just give it like this 4-episode 1-week mini thing that they're going to do over 4 nights, and just make that as its own thing, as a 4-part movie. Whereas this doesn't feel like they've done that. It feels like this is very much. I mean, Flash felt more even, and I'm sure Legends will, because it has to, because it's the ending of the whole thing. Arrow felt very much an Arrow episode that was just kind of tying into it.
And Supergirl just got shafted completely.
Yeah, so.
No, I agree. I think that's the better way. Take an episode off, because you're not losing any budget. Nothing's changing. Just take an episode off each order when you're renewing the seasons, and order a 4-part mini and call it something else, and actually just give it its own thing for a week and say everything else on a break.
Because that way you're not restricted with this weird thing of, well, Supergirl's on a Monday, Flash is on a Tuesday, Arrow's on so we have to do it in this order, and it has to start in this one and end in this one. It's okay if it starts on like Flash running around Central City, because it's just a general thing for all of them, But
it's gonna be weirder next year, because obviously then Arrow after Christmas will be the last one, not the middle one, because Legends is moving to a Tuesday.
That's assuming it doesn't move back. But
well, yeah, I'm just assuming it stays where it is, because
yeah.
But But it would be weirder then, because at least Legends being at the end here kind of makes sense, because that is like the culmination of shows in a sense. Like you've got people from every show, so it makes sense for there to be like an ending point. But you couldn't have done this crossover. Say that now in the same order, you couldn't have done it because Arrow would have had to be the end of the story, and it wouldn't have been able to do any of this stuff that it wanted to do for its 100th.
The best thing they probably could have done to try and avoid this would have been to take a week off with Arrow somewhere before this, have this be episode 7 of Arrow, and just to do the middle part of the crossover, and then do your 100th on its own next week as its own thing.
Yeah. The problem is they wanted the excuse on the ship in the pods to revisit everything for the 100th stuff, didn't they?
Yeah, but given, like, we've seen this plot done both on Supergirl and essentially The Flash in different ways.
Nah, that's true.
Because Flashpoint was essentially the same idea as well. The idea that he sees his life as if his parents were still alive and everything's happy, you know?
Yeah.
You know, Supergirl had the alien parasite, you know, what'd you call it? Black
Mercy,
thank you. In season 1. So, you know, they think of an excuse, you know?
Yeah.
Like, they could easily do it. So, I think that would have been the better option. I think shoehorning in here kind of hurt the crossover a bit. It didn't hurt their 100 so much. I feel like it did everything it needed to do in that sense.
That's the thing, because it was, as far as episodes of Arrow go, pretty good. And
But
it just suffered as part of a crossover, not amazing.
and it's not even so much, like you say, had there been like an extra episode before Legends, I wouldn't even care. But because this is part 2 of 3, it feels like it didn't really advance the plot beyond, they're coming to Earth to like actually invade. Of course they are. It's an alien invasion
That's
story.
the thing. I mean, we got the first part of Flash, like set up, build your team. Second part should be acknowledge the threat, do some assessments, you know, maybe have a first trial run attack.
But that's the thing is, though, is even the Flash one, I liked the episode, but it did feel kind of rushed in some respects. There were certain elements of the training that I felt could have had a bit more breathing room. And what I actually think could have used way more breathing room was the threat of the aliens themselves. I actually feel like the first part of this crossover, or not even part of the crossover, but the episode of maybe Legends or Flash last week or whatever, leading into the crossover, should have been the discovery of the threat. And it should have been an episode building up how dangerous they are, so that we get to the end of an episode and go, crap, we need help, you know?
See, I get that. At least I thought, though, this episode of Arrow would be that. Like, we see how dangerous these aliens are, and we get to experience it properly. And then the final part in Legends would be them coming together, dealing with it, and learning how to beat them. Whereas now we've got to go through all of that in one episode. And I feel like Legends is now going to feel pretty rushed as a result.
Yeah, and I already felt Flash was kind of rushed. I mean, I still enjoyed it. Like I say, I don't want to crap on it, but it just it felt a bit rushed. I feel like Legends will probably feel just as rushed, if not more so.
Yeah.
And I think had they not devoted most of Arrow's episode to Arrow specific stuff, it might not feel that way. They could have used this time wisely. I think, and I feel kind of this way about all the crossovers so far, is I don't know if they're writing them out in the smartest way. Like, they really need to look at it as a whole.
Yeah, it always feels very fragmented. It feels like they're still a little bit too scared of what if people aren't watching all of them.
But the thing is, though, is that if you tuned into Arrow tonight, like, you literally just have to accept from the previous one, or they get beamed up to space.
Exactly. But that's the thing. Like, they feel like they're trying to go, what if they're not? So we'll keep it a little bit more content. Like, they get away with it in Flash. It's the first part, so there's nothing before it that you have to have seen. If you've watched in Flash, great. Whereas it comes to this, and it's like, okay, if you've just jumped in, you can kind of follow along based on the previously. But if you're not watching it, there's only so much they can do with this alien threat without it, you know, being like, you have to have watched this.
The biggest casualty of all this, though, is that the aliens themselves, while they look good, have no presence. Not really.
At all.
They have no sense of character. They don't feel that dangerous. It feels like they're just a random Photoshop so that all the heroes can fight next episode.
I think the only thing we really seem to do is kill the president.
Yeah, and even that felt oddly, like, weak. Like, I don't know. Like, I didn't really care.
Yeah, you killed one person. Good job.
The villains need to be better developed, and the problem is they're not given. They don't have the time to do that. They've devoted all this extra time to other things, and that's why I feel like maybe an episode before the actual event to build up the threat. Like, you know, they had that cool army footage from the 50s of like them seeing aliens. Like, what if?
Oh man, if we'd done that in Legends.
Yeah, what if we'd done that in Legends, and what if we had an episode of Flash like last week that built up the mystery of these things coming? You know, and maybe at the end of the episode, that's when Lila came in and said, "All right, we've known about these things for, you know, however many years." And
What we could have done as well is if we'd had, even if they'd known they were coming like on Legends, and we'd had that stuff from Lila, they could have gone back and gone to the 50s and experienced how they fought then, and seen and got a sense of what they were like, and you know, got some hands-on experience with them before the real threat now.
yeah, I think. Yeah, I think what's really happening with these crossovers is that the plot always ends up being kind of, quite frankly, shit. But it's the character stuff that sells it for us. It's them interacting with each other. It's them bonding that makes it work. And I think part of the frustration a little bit here is that even that feels a little bit shortchanged this time.
Yeah.
And I wish it wasn't. And I wish the plot wasn't shortchanged either. Because I would love if they actually built up the Dominators as a really opposing force where we really felt the terror of them coming to Earth. But I don't really feel it that way. I feel like they're going to beat them next episode. It's fine. Like,
yeah, that is the problem, because we've not seen them do anything impressive.
we went on a kind of a whole crossover related discussion there at the end, as opposed to specifically talking about Arrow, but I think it's relevant. And you might feel this is premature because we're kind of assuming a few things about Legends at this point. But I think because we are 2/3 through, and we already feel like it's already feeling kind of rushed, a lot of the plot stuff, that we can't see how it won't feel rushed next episode.
And, you know, we've got past experience in these crossovers now. We kind of know roughly what to expect.
Yeah, honestly, my favourite one is probably still going to be Supergirl last year with Flash.
Yeah.
Which, again, I mean, the villains in that weren't great. The villains weren't exactly that built up, but it gave them time to just bond and have simple conversations and get ice cream and talk about donuts, you know.
I'm looking forward to the Supergirl Flash musical one coming up.
Yeah, it'll feel more focused, I think.
You may not be just because it's a musical and you hate musicals, but just, you know, I think, you know, it should be a lot of fun and better than this, probably, because it won't feel as constricted with the plot. It's not trying to do as big a thing, so you won't feel let down by it.
I don't think the plot will be that important in that episode. Whereas with Invasion, they're trying to make the plot feel important, but it's not, because they're not actually given the time to develop it, which is a shame. Yeah, so I enjoyed last night's episode quite a bit, and this one I didn't enjoy as much because it was so Arrow focused, and I don't like Arrow a lot at all in some cases. But it was probably the best episode Arrow's had in like 2 years, and it did have some fun stuff, especially the last 5 minutes when we got into like spaceship stuff. I had a lot of fun. And Supergirl Flash's moments were good, even though they felt kind of oddly tacked on.
Yeah, they were good, but I kind of almost wish they weren't there, just so we could have just ignored that whole stuff and spent more time in the dream world, maybe. Like, you know, done a little bit extra stuff there. Probably would have been more interesting.
Yeah. Because like I say, one of the things that I really wanted in last night's episode was more stuff of just characters who have not met each other before, like talking to each other and really getting a sense of like, whoa, you're like this, you can do that. Like, especially Supergirl. Like, I want to see Supergirl have a conversation with Diggle or Thea and her be like really her charming normal self to them, but then use her heat vision and watch them crap themselves, and you know, I want to see that kind of stuff, and it feels like they've not given us that much time for it. And what little bits we've had have been good. It's just like it needs more room to breathe. It's like I almost want like an episode that's just a superhero retreat where they just hang out for a weekend and there's no villains, no plot to do, just.
That'll never happen, but I agree.
Yeah, that's what I want.
Yeah.
There you go. That's that's the second or third night of the crossover, part 2 really of the Invasion story arc. So thank you very much. Let us know what you thought of this episode. Do you agree with all of our rambles about the crossovers as a whole? Like and subscribe and all that stuff. It helps us out a lot if you do. Thanks very much once again. We'll see you tomorrow night for Legends of Tomorrow.